skongeit ongi grim si magmountain ichigan hipitugi paigomaga kapik squatamen. Nan totuginista noeski jo ispihtian imagenes Hawaii ispia. Makano situhtanan to isupuik aguappon na mga takag. Kasi imochip sohamanan ma. O ige at hotel room go mo yapat staan. Tisan ispindige yapat staan isitan napio. Tapo in the talks spihtanan. Tuhun on Honolulu. Gisupu. Grazie mustaan isupu igipipo. So kad nasi piano agapa miskano man sitigis tabanan ma the airport. Uktas diyon ma aski a globe. Mshawan man antuti ina new shit oiga skak up globe. Well, si mag the Pacific Ocean and ma just oiga mshawan ma the Pacific Ocean. What tao I hukta min stuk sa stiwa. Or ma masta every time they Hawaii mo Hawaii min stuk sa. Oiga mshawan Pacific Ocean. Björgin stammi mountain na manega pan Hawaii. Tan sugi stuck sich kogota. You know? The pay mountain man all this stuff is the first thing I thought about. How did they get here? You know, kontot negon ewan ma. Pay to makyugo og pisa tigi tatoskin igi maganuktin maskihkuskuut. Tapto sa sagamungi tuhtaan. Ja tuskiaan kamanen giuagaan. Ahte go tuhtiaan Saskatoon. Vai patataan sneigan nihteen. Saskatoon Airport. Amma sakena man sneigan the Wayfinder sekatio. Wade Davis. And the first chapter, Navigators. I thought, holy smoke. And you saw ski whatever how long it must been tan sugi stuck sich go men suksi. I'm sorry man pi. Mihta anega. Dit mia. Kayas skihtamuin. In stohtahkoaski, juvakuhtahkoaski. Skihtakko tan siis miatsik kiaskok. Kin russiok tan siis juutti tan siis mahkaha. Tan siis se was scoop magutik, tan siis sa tsaksak, teisen stonaatsak, tan siis se piissem, i sagas digis, se paksum kahkio. Jekskehtakko. Vetak tapahtaminen mit Pacific Ocean min stuksa hapsasige. Piek pahaskaan, stut pahaskaan, juk tip mua huigitsik, go. Mui taptogi uigok, to sopu tapto tap muutihutsak, tahkam skaho, tan siis to tapanuhutsak vanma. Muimsa aisan askia, ha? Suittigi askia spaju piegaskim ta tahtaskim ta tomtanoaski piisettum skamuktan siis ettegi se muutihutsak. Well, ika kisiaan Yskiniksi suojaan tuki National Geographic ei mitään monia uutiusse anthropologist. Stiga sikaisutan muiksissa. Yksi suomagis taksihko uti Hawaii tuo. Uti in South America ustaatsik omattua stuu simoja hangapi tuogas San Piksku liijonse. Ima moptahkoon mä uussi. Mä tutin nianan ihtä suok. Monia anthropologists, you know. Big PhDs. Noihta muonanek tän siis taksihko. Everybody's asking that question. That was a long time ago, and I was just a teenager. I saw that. What they said was, "Tan sigis taksihko igis puahugutsik, juutnit nugutsik, yktitago hoguok, in Hawaii, and suksik destig, tan tipugoyatsik, as konsihko tihtahu, titsik wamoniaak." So, Spuhti ogo moniaak. Mä kohta muana on native Hawaiian, siis taksihko Hawaii. from South America pa ham at macha sohamok. Jagin pakat suak en pagawak. Igas pa mahmut dogo so when te kati tsaga bitawa wa nipi. Skotski jatkin kin pog extra snacks rock to piski tago in Hawaiian Islands. So the mountain is tamen. Then sistaksi ko and get native Hawaiians Hawaii hundreds and hundreds of years ago. Bo monia ok the mountain is chicken wango tamona ni ok and sistaksi ko. So when you think about it, we 20, 40, 50 years ago po with tamago no monia ok tan sisi is skitamun no I get bits. So in the early 70s, I'm staying in another hotel in Hawaii. So what do you want here? Hand painted herb kane sekasona. The old start and had those and here sun ha you start seka gip moti hutsek. Spuga ha. Tapahtaman tap magana to is the nox masin pait. They go apahtaman Polynesian Voyager Society. In early 70s, you might speak that on my that Polynesian Voyager Society. So to get to in, it's one day squitting on moon out tamaga, then she's stuck in the almoted. The Scotch with Xnam Watanik. They go get the moon no way. They go he walk off the Makaski. They go he walk off the Maktan CCP6 Namas, then cities of Tapanoa, Megimi Gusia, Homaski. Nipi and sisi to get moti hoya. What the more that do? So in the early 70s, give us the old sipiak, Hukalea Sekatia. In 1976, it was the Hidi Toti Taktuak. Skitty nox get the mona and who deals to be seen in Domskoyok. Monskis and Chekasut. All these young navigators from Hawaii. Muchak skittamok dan system scriptako and mentan motihutsik. So not dioxi no apegant in Polynesia. And so snam 1976 pusuak. Go. Miskanotamok. Miskana own from Hawaii to Tahiti. We one my it's not going it's monia pics going with Tahiti. I go when we got taken Polynesia. Toxanogok dinner to some for 3 weeks. 17,000 people was a mini boats. Big up. So my point is this, Rick. You pihtamani mufpigi and tan sisi swakota menaski. Tan sisi pisix na bagusi ingiwe. Tan tito na men magaga big screen. Tan tit pisigi tamen magagi migusi ingiwe. And ma kagi pis migusia. Tan sidis matsoya. Tan sidis stottawa kisino is stottama haski depskittama. Tan sitottapa noya quest matsu and mutihu and naga timtu and naga timsu. In 1976, Hokulea, Igapachik in Tahiti. Mapiagiwe radio, GPS, Kyoya Pastats again, the sailors, anyway, Katsko, Utaxi no napu, de Katwapatina auto, Katwap Maugnosio, Katwap Maugnaciswa Maka, Katwap Maugakwas, and Tiote. And the isipiat and a kiasa puti and I took you exis. Tapui, I hear up muita. Anusago. I was there March, April. The Piopahoya on April the 11th from Hawaii this year. The go Tahiti to the talk to a spin. So that was about how many a month ago or I guess. So work. One time, just a warm up. They've been doing this in 1976. They went all over the world. They were in frickin' New York City in the 80s, all over the place. Sweetie. They call it Pigo Pipti Tagminsagus the Pehote. That's fully the island from the ocean. Discuss on the Sakti and Sisi Sa and Gamantanista Manu Imaskawak. Igusconache with Tisinim no. Tisinim war or Sivstachik. One tepuing work or Muniak. Maybe Skittamuk. Scotch Eskitama. Skitti no me takonama. Kakiugi Migusia. The most excopetamapo. Tansisi. The Pigo Pip Tamakawik Matsuno. The Wipon Mamsia, Kioyak, Yipitochti Taskina. You go Mamsia, the Nana Patstad. Muy, the Gipitaxino, Pinana Patstad Matsuno, the Gap Muiga, Pagatamaki, Gamiupa, Kenon Mactacunino, Tansisi, the Gisse. The Gisse Pigo Pip Tamak, that's good means to come Pigo Pitaco. You go Sconacha, good taste anymore. So Nistanoski, Haskawisi Totian, why? I walk now back in Upixkuno, their culture. Koskopitamok, Kapits, Muipagitiok, Gigo Mutamachokutaskio. The government, the army, the farmers, all that. Squazi Mr. Mutamacha. Kapits Muipagitiok. Kapits Pigipti no Magtaskino, happy taco. So Treaty 10. Dan siis sit is daga skatwa kuma Canada. Tuahpu piakpugona isino bitsaham. Dan siis kagi gechit tuitugo ta treaty tani masnahuwen. Kutak tuahpu nammoat. Ige muhtse masnahuwen. Dan siis tegi gatsit na tot namasutiwe tapskuts. Pugante askogiasku. Magi nogia pits apskut treaty ten capits masko kagi paget namaku no igechit yakan mate smamoet ya to swat amahaski to mamotoskia. Ogia pits wiana to heota ya bonia where mamtanim suin puktis. So at the end of the day, I mutamano with the story. Kapamoti hutsugo. You was cap mskachik masachik last year my COVID and again go Hukalea. You were gonna circumvent the globe. Yeah? So next year, what's some they're warming up and training young people. Now they're young. They're in their 20s and 30s, these navigators. Before that used to be old people. Yeah. Diona Thompson Shekasona, that guy goes. You want them to waste, you watch them, if you go on Instagram, you go to Hukalea, the Polynesian Voyage Society, there's updates there right now. From Tahiti. So basically, the reason why we're doing this, not only to tell those anthropologists we didn't get lost. He said, the way I aloha aina. Sagihtakta scheme. Love your land. Kikskihtinuk tohsetan sitigi suitsehet te siniin, ta nagatiimek toasamis, nagatiimek te siniin, ta nagatihtamin kahjugip matsuin, kahjuganaks kamasuin, everything. Kahjuigi migusia haskihusse, jokok tohtse, kahjugi bisagipaju, matsuin pikskuin. Tan sigap mitahkamga, tan sigast kaspasugunsuin, pisap matsuin, gitsanak musumak sapanak agi pisap matsuin, kaski. Ta sagihtain, tahkamimuin, muiwe stehewagi we maipayo, ta pagihtaminen on ma. So, kueksohkan that story, Rick. I mean, kueksohkan. And kuesans tohtamin, kuesapskihtamin. It was stay tapskuts skuanaka tohtiane epiane emetsigian. Han siis atsamuinenkin pitää neka pigiujan ei sinimak tatsamustoon ehtiin. Gapetsen maantan ehtiin noma. Tan siis että kui ponuengs kesjahtaskin no. Tan siis että tegi sekutihia asohkaak. Tani pavista maasuja skihta maha että maantan ehti kannane He's been tapped to cell phones, TV, computer. Pieguni machi wapian. Uksigi tak piegni chogan sakta years ago. I said, go get pon momo the ta. Go get pon momo yoga momo and yoga it is spage walls if pieguni apitago hosya. Tahtoi one day pieguni spemi hitapin una maga pahpahpituma muchigihtat. Muy pisai hose our walls of welfare nita. Oi uitama ja muchigihtat se miitti hose sino taskino yosama muyatsigit nahoga mutsignita. You know? So you one man ma. Muy wichassin. I know muy wichassin. So you know masko at but pugota masko city sino takamimot. You know, basically tomogo sino 5-10 years. You can go on the internet right now. Me got tawag government crown line. We skiftin. No, and me got tawag. I put this serious. My tawag on the other side of the sheep. So yes, muy tagi tihta mahoik pitus paspihuwa about everything, education, our cultural evolution, our language piskuya. And sabito sunny yo hakyo. You know what paspisa. Muy kagi mamsi the toa ko tagoyak. So much to go no Doug Cardinal be you do meet strike and in Ottawa. They got beat that and it was flashcards in it before PowerPoint. He said, guys, I'm an architect, but in my heart I'm a community development guy. And then a couple years ago, I took a guy to it. Said, you got a big squat singing sweet deal. I'm a candidate to Doug, what is a PVC? Nana? What I get down over? I got the not in a pot star. At the Managafono government pizza organization, or going to Kagivichi work or got the marks. We're sending the same people that helped us get into this situation, you know. Even man must come on to anything. The what's that to get to go on scan for a good market in which one obsess. As come on the Bogotin, I score my way going to Hammocks and it. So obsessed mixed to and up which is and up to I put to get off again. I put to go to Awesome og, Miss Chet Annie's walk. Miss Chatterach coming walk, Miss Chatsokiti walk, Miss Chatsoka walk. I go out and take a tita mogus to up much so and I put to be toasted most niggy Timogoma, you know. So you want ma a ski sagit dog. A sagit in a ski. I score 5-10 minutes a day. So I pick and she to get a hammock shit on mushroom chapan and scuchapan. Niet saan of kumagan gaya sa gip muti hutsipe. You tip mamtanista, and tip me good oil. You would be give meat to draw some sa. Which you are gonna. You give Nigiuta. She packing by here. Watch us squaggy you paham will. I'm squaw. To give me what, tam giving mamtanistam a ski, give me go sit, get up all it, tam matsuan. Tutti mo te sinima. Might stay. Few minutes a day the mountain is coming. Forget them in your phone. A ski. Sagita. Yksi.
Ja niin hyvä tuttamah again muusihtaan og pikskuven. Mutta tää tehty patnamok niin on siis tuttamah niin hyvä tuon. Taga siimi tuttamen tussimna nagispenta katsomusta tomanus poga katsomusta. Tansigeska simu tuttinuma. Oikein tohta kaita niin hiovita puutu sipuani, mutta vittu se speaks with. Mutta ga simus.
Oh, before I get to that, and then I'll tell a little story that Peter Kinu told me. Peter Kinu is the father of Bob Kinu. He's the leader of the opposition in the Manitoba legislature. The next go Peter Kinu when I was on the board of APT, and Let's go to lunch too. He had some much to it. We start in some of which we got some stuff. He had gone to university. He was one of the early lawyers. You wouldn't know it, you know. And he was a Grand Chief of the Ontario First Nations for a long time. And he said, while I was away, I'm at the guy shit. I'm at the was the guy on or sick near than a po. The stung you on a hog through violence. Was the city or waba. Yeah. And then that takes the guy shit. When I know Sky so the young people used to come to me and said, "Hey Peter, teach us how to speak with your boy." You know, these young guys. I've got something to say to you before I teach you. You go home and you go write something in English from the deepest part of your being, from the soul and spirit of your being. A story, a poem, a prayer, anything. But dig as deep as you can with those English words. And then you come back and we'll translate it to Ojibwe. Some of them went home and did it too. And they come back. And so within 2 years, some of those young people, they spoke their language. So what that means is this. A long time ago, there was 2 people that came to All Across when I was a young mayor. There was Sioux, a man and his wife. I don't know where they came from. So we had this supper or whatever, and we were sitting around, and he said, "Our ceremonies with the pipe," he said. I was just a young guy. I was just learning this stuff. And he said, we have the pipe, the stone bowl and the stem that we stab into the 4 directions to reach into the origins of our ancestors. As far back as we can, we hoop them together. So from the earliest time to today, when you make those directions in that ceremony with your pipe, you're bringing all of the existence of your ancestors in all directions together at that moment, he said. Whoa, that's heavy stuff, man. Huh? So I remember that when Peter talked about that, he said, it's difficult to articulate. But he said, you carry it in your DNA. Everything your ancestors know, the language, the culture, their ceremonies, the evolution of your survival, how you thrive through hard times, good times, everything. It's all in you. You don't necessarily have to relearn it. You just have to figure out how to have the right key to unlock that door. But if you're not conscious of it, if you're not conscious of your land during the day, if you're not conscious of what your kids are telling you, then it makes it harder for you to find the right combination to open that padlock. Huh? So you got to have that conscious and connection to the living. And that was a good moment. So I just wanted to share that before I started the lesson in terms of what I said earlier. And for those that didn't understand the story, a long time ago, when I was younger, whatever, said my wife and I went to Hawaii for the first time, and we had never been anywhere in the winter time because it was really weird. We left, I think it was 40 below in Edmonton. It was really freaking bad. My grandmother, Margaret Case, had just passed away before Christmas. Then we went after Christmas. It was really damn cold. So I was really glad I got off at the plane in Hawaii. So, ooh, it was 80 degrees, you know. But the first thing I saw coming down the ramp was a big globe of the earth. And facing you when you're going down the ramp is the Pacific Ocean, and in the middle was little islands that said to me, how did they get here, these frickin' native Hawaiians? It always hung on to me, that question. 2 years later, Christine is a nurse. She worked in Hawaii. I used to go visit her. I'm at the airport in Saskatoon. I figured I'll pick up a book. I found a book called The Wayfinders. People should read that story because Wade is an amazing guy. He's a Canadian anthropologist and storyteller and stuff's amazing. But The Wayfinders book, the first chapter was The Navigators. And I said, When I was a young guy, I read National Geographic magazine. These white anthropologists said, we know how they got there. They came from South America in reed boats. You know, they tied it together, they went there, they were prepared to do all this stuff. They were asserting that the native Hawaiians drifted away in a big wind from somewhere, ended up in these islands in the middle of the ocean. That's what they were asserting, these PhDs. So they put together this reed boat, and I think they almost cannibalized each other. They were so hungry, so thirsty, and they were going nuts in the middle. There's a movie about it, you know. It's called the Kon-Tiki Expedition. You can find it probably on Netflix or something. It's really strange when you know the story today. When you knew it then, you figure, oh, these guys were heroes. And they were freaking heroes when they did this. But when you know the story today, that's ridiculous stuff. Anyway, I thought they were, when I think about it now in a movie, I thought they were ready to eat each other because they were so hungry. They were freaking crazy. And they ended up in Hawaii eventually, all ragtag and half dead and all this other stuff. Years later, I go back and I'm going in this hotel, and there's paintings of these Hawaiian ocean-going catamarans or canoes, these sails that they made with the fiber of the trees in the island. And there was a guy there by the name of Herb Kane. He and a couple of other guys started the Polynesian Voyage Society in the early 70s, I think, because they were sick and tired of being told by these white anthropologists of how we ended up in frickin' Hawaii. In 1976, they finished a boat called Hokulea. Let's go to Tahiti. We'll go find a Polynesian navigator to come and help us so we don't get, we know that they had a trail. They have these trails in the ocean, they call them. They didn't have any instruments. They didn't want any instruments because they knew their ancestors traveled without instruments. They knew where they were going. The water, the stars, the movement of the waves, the fish, the birds, the wind, how the sun came up, how the moon was there. They had these. It's a complicated thing to explain, but they understood dead reckoning in a sense. So you got to know where you're coming from and where you're at. So they had built all of these quadrants in a sense of the sky, the water, all these things. So they had a navigator, tapto, in that boat. There's a person that navigates. He's sitting there. He sleeps once in a while. Got to know where you're going, where you've been, eh? And just by that knowledge, he looks at the water. Maybe turn a little bit this way. So you can imagine coming from Hawaii, 3,000 miles away is a little island that you're going to go to and visit your ancestors. So this much here is that much over there. So if you miss it, you're really out to lunch somewhere, eh? So in 1976, they wanted to prove to these guys, enough of this shit. Sorry. They went to Tahiti. 17,000 people met him at the beach. Just like that. They don't think they ever recognized the impact of reawakening, that thing I talked about earlier, from inside of them, the key to their culture, their language, their knowledge of the ocean, of their ancestors. From then on, they went and traveled different places. Even they went to New York, all over the place. And we're in Hawaii in March and April, and the day we came back, they left for Tahiti. They were warming up. They're training all these young people, these young navigators, 30 years old, 32 years old. And what is it? What was 1976? 50 years ago? Roughly? Pretty close, huh? Yeah, so they're kind of celebrating a milestone. They were going to go around the world last year, but COVID kind of stopped them. So they're preparing these warm-up trips in the middle of the ocean for circumnavigating the planet. And then I realized not only were they trying to tell the people how they traveled, not to spite them or be mean about it. They just wanted to show their people that, but we'll tell them how we got here. But the other part of the message I got was this. the underlying message of Hukalea and what they're doing is Sagihta, love your land. If you love your land, you'll know how to love everything else. You know, you learn how to take care of your family, to take care of yourself. You'll know how to re-emerge and rediscover your culture, your language, your ability to do things that was handed down to you through time in your blood, that's in your DNA. It's not so difficult, you know. 3 weeks ago, my brother had a visitor. He didn't know where he was until his mid-teens. And he was taken in by, I think, his grandmother. I didn't know how to speak my freaking Cree. Now he speaks better Cree than me, we're crying out loud. So that's, he said the first thing he did was his uncle told him, go cut wood. I didn't know how to cut wood. And he tried to whine and complain about it. Hey, go cut wood. Every time you complain, go cut more wood. So next thing I know, I became an expert, you know, cutting wood. And then I go back, they talk to me in Cree. So just by having that expression of physical stuff, your mind in tune to what you're doing, somebody tells you how to speak your language, it catches on. So it's the same thing here. Just love your land is a wonderful thing. So, you know, a few minutes every day from your phone, your computer, from your TV, just take time to think about your ancestors that traveled this land, that settled here, that probably canoed on the river right here. So what were they thinking? You know, what were they doing with their kids, their partners, their families? Where did they live? What were they thinking about their lives, their world? Did they love the land? How is it that they came to be where they're at and why you're here? So these are really important lessons. Because I know there's so many young people that are willing to take up whatever it is needs to be taken, and us older guys, we need to figure out how to mentor them without preaching to them too much. You know, let them learn and skin their knees a little bit. And every once in a while, they'll come and ask you, you know, maybe something that you might know because you had a little bit more life than them, you know. So, because you preach to them, then they listen to you too much and nothing changes, right? It's last generation stuff. But if they ask the questions, it makes it much easier for them to learn. So that's the story.